Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of eCoffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. And on today's show, I have with me Claire Brunner. Claire is the partner client development at Enilon, a customer-centric digital performance marketing agency headquartered in the greater Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. She has a bachelor's degree in business information systems and marketing from Texas Christian University and has over 20 years of experience helping entrepreneurs and business owners get more traffic, leads, and sales. When not working on marketing campaigns for clients, Claire enjoys spending time with her family, watching her children play soccer and volleyball and team sports. Claire, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
Hey, no problem. It's a pleasure. Hey, Claire, how would your university professors describe you as a student?
Oh, geez. I would like to think that I was very engaged in class. You know, I think going through the business school, there's just lots of group projects. Yeah. And then also there's some really hard classes that you have to take. Like I took coding classes and, economics. And so sometimes you definitely find yourself utilizing the teacher open door time to go in and try to get some extra help. But I really enjoyed my time at school. I danced there as well. So I was just super involved in the university and within the sports program and stuff too.
All right, on. What would you say is the biggest difference between the person you were in university and who you are now?
I mean, you just get so much life experience once you're out in the real world, right? And there's, it's interesting because I just over the course of time, we've had lots of different team members, come in, especially like with internships and those right out of school. And I've had some that are very, assertive, as in like, I had one girl that I was mentoring and she sat down with me and she goes, I want to be a director in 6 months. And I'm like, okay. I was like, you're really smart and I appreciate, all your degrees and all the things you've done really quickly in school. But there is just something to be said about experience and the time you need in the field to really learn, because you can only get so book knowledge. You have to have the years doing the job, working with the clients, like just getting into all the situations that you have to learn how to navigate. And so that really is the difference between education and real world experiences. It's just, you fundamentally need to go through the process of the day to day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only like to be a director, you should have the experience in multiple roles, not just one role. Like for instance, multiple roles in the sense of doing Google ads or Facebook ads or SEO, or would you agree with that? Or
I think it really depends on the position that you're in and the strategy. I do think that having some of those differences, more so, I think it's really in the business understanding and learning how to work with clients and learning like all the different, because you can be very optimistic that, hey, I'm just going to put this strategy together and it's going to work. Well, there's just so many dynamics in business and you have to learn the different scenarios and just kind of be in the day-to-day for a while.
Absolutely. Hey, do you think that the experience you gained at Mason Baronet, if I pronounced that correctly, let me know if I didn't, has helped you in your development as a digital marketer and entrepreneur?
So I started with Mason Baronet. It was Group Baronet at the time, right out of school. And Mason Baronet is a fabulous, really branding agency. And when I started there, I think it was 2003. I mean, it was like right at the time where businesses were all saying like, hey, I need a website. Or maybe like, we had this page of a site and now we need a real site. And even at the agency, it was a relatively new thing. And so me coming out of school with an e-business degree, I actually took on most all of the web projects at the agency because I knew HTML and I kind of knew the process. So it really got me into a lot of projects quickly. And one thing also, I think that I took away from Mason Bernay, I've a lot of respect for Holly Mason, she's just really wonderful working with clients and strategy. And she was definitely a good mentor to me there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What attracted you to wanting to get involved in the digital marketing? Like did you specifically go to Texas, the Christian University in Texas with the goal of being in the digital marketing industry?
I think at the time, digital marketing industry was pretty new. So to fully understand what it was, it wasn't, there weren't a ton of just digital agencies, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, exactly.
Like when I started, I started school in 99. But I knew I had always loved technology, and I'd always loved digital, and I'd always loved marketing. So that is kind of why I studied both in school, because I did see a lot of opportunity in the digital space. It was called e-business at the time.
Yeah,
it's business information systems now.
Yeah.
But, I think I knew I wanted to be in marketing, and I didn't totally know where that was going to take me. But it definitely equipped me for my career.
Yeah, right on. Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur? Like even from a young age? Was it something that was in your DNA, or did you grow into it?
It probably is in my DNA. I can, just as I really like to be able to step in and lead in situations. Working within a lot of red tape doesn't work very well with me. I can get my hand slapped a lot, but really being able, I like to take risks. I like to take ownership of things, responsibility for things, and to be able to have ideas and to be able to put them in place is a really cool thing. It's being on the owner side. There's definitely pros and cons to it. Some days I'm like, I just want to put my head down and focus on my work and not worry about all the stuff.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot of fun and kind of benefits that come with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you tell me about your experience working with, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Enilon?
Yep.
And how did you become a partner?
So yes, so you said it right, Enilon, and I'll tell you that's an anagram for online. And I know, right?
So like cool. That is so cool.
We've got to get an animation done soon that kind of makes that apparent, but we're working on that actually. Once people understand, they're like, oh, okay, that makes total sense now.
Oh, it makes total sense.
The agency started in 2005. It has always been focused on digital. And so that's kind of where the name came from. It's evolved. I started working at the agency in 2010. At the time, I had been a marketing director, client side, and was really just wanting to focus on digital because it is where I am interested. I love the fast-paced environment. I love that it's always evolving and things like that. And I started as a digital marketing specialist. And when I started, I was the only girl at the agency, and it was a pretty heavy development shop. We had a lot of back-end developers. At the time, CMS systems weren't super prevalent. So like if you wanted a calendar module on your website, you had to build it. And so I just started and they were wanting to start to add a little bit more marketing to what they do and what they sell. And so that's really what they hired me for. It was a little bit of a loose job description, which is actually something that I do very well. It's just kind of, let me just come in and we'll figure out what we need to get done here.
Right on.
Yeah. But, just kind of through the agency, realized that there was a need for client service. So I stepped into that role. We needed to really rethink how project management was done. So I hired a really strong project manager, and together we built out the project management department, which then allowed me to go back and focus on client services, and really look at, how our clients were structured, the work that we were doing, project versus retainer. Are we actually working with right fit clients for us? What is the right mix of clients for the agency? Those things. So we went through that whole process, worked through our client service process. And then I had a lot of interest in getting into business development as well, because you can have a plan for, this is the right type of work for our team. Like, this is where we can be successful. These are the right type of clients. But like, if business development isn't totally in sync with that, then you're not really making any change, right? Like, you have to get the right fit clients coming in. And then the other piece of that is, when clients come in, the communication is so important so that the client and the team are set up for success. So I kind of started getting into the business development role, while also being within client service. And then, I think it's just, I really loved what we were doing, and I loved the team, and I loved the company, and I wanted more responsibility for it.
Yeah.
When you're not an owner, there's only so much information you can receive about the business. And I just wanted full transparency. I wanted the financials. I wanted everything so that I could have all my data points to really be working with, to know how to make decisions and help move things forward. So that's really kind of the journey and where it came. And over the course of time, we have 4 owners of the company. 2 are really in the day-to-day, and 2 have stepped back at this point. We're officially a women-owned business now. So it's been a cool ride.
Right on. So was it just a natural progression that they said, hey, because I know one agency owner, he actually sold his agency to his employee outright. Was it just natural progression that they saw how the existing owner saw how valuable you were to offer you part ownership of the company in order to take things to the next level?
Yes. I mean, I would say I was a little vocal about wanting that.
Okay, sure.
And then it just, but it really was about finding the right time for it to work seamlessly with things that were going on within the agency. So the right time kind of presented itself, and we made it happen.
All right on. Hey, you mentioned a couple of times in regards to women in the industry, and how you were the only woman hired at one time. You were the only, and then that it's now a woman-owned agency, which is great. Do you feel there are any unique challenges that women face when working in the digital marketing industry?
I honestly haven't experienced that. Okay. But I'm also one that I'm not, I don't know, I'm not very timid either. So I just kind of position myself as if there's really no difference. And so I've experienced no difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say to other younger women who are wanting to get involved in the industry? What advice would you give them?
I mean, there's so much opportunity within the digital marketing space, and there's so many opportunities to just constantly learn, from all the different online programs and certifications and content and all this kind of stuff. So you can definitely plug yourself in. The fact that the majority of the businesses are remote now. I mean, our business is 100% remote. So from balancing your career and balancing family, it's very suitable for that. So I think if you like to constantly be challenged and constantly learn, and you really want to use that part of your brain while also needing, to be, I pick my kids up from school every day. I'm there when they're presenting whatever they're presenting at school, and being
That's
able to kind of make all of that happen. I think digital marketing is a good industry for that.
Right on. Do you think post-secondary education is essential before entering the industry?
No. I don't. There's certain, like, I would say the only thing that I would consider is, I mean, it's definitely, I've always wanted to get my master's. I've never done it. But I have been interested in it, but largely because I would really like to be an adjunct professor one day.
Cool.
Aside from that though, like there's certain things, like I would say if you're a project manager, getting your PMP is helpful. There's certain certifications that align, with some of the specific things.
Sure.
We deal a lot in working with business strategy. So, because we don't just execute on digital, tactics, we really get in on the strategic side of what we're doing and really helping the business. So, having your MBA, I think, and having that advanced level of business understanding can always provide value, but I don't necessarily think it's, critical.
Critical. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if someone was wanting to get involved in digital marketing and they came to you, how should I get started? What would your advice be to them of the first thing they should do?
Well, I mean, I would go and get, I would go to Google and Meta and some of those, and I would just get, real quick, some of the certifications. Like I'm GA certified. I'm Facebook Blueprint certified or whatever. Like having some of that, I think, on your resume is very attractive. And then depending on where you are, I mean, there's usually a lot of internship options. Kind of just get started and get involved so you can start to learn it.
All right on. So getting certification and getting an internship and applying for internships would be one thing to do, which makes a lot of sense. Are there specific ways to find internships that you know of? Is it just Google? Like, is there directories that people go to for internships? Is it just searching different companies and looking for opportunities in the area?
I don't know if that's an interesting question. I don't know if I'm old school in the fact that, I mean, it's usually like within whatever city you're in, there's, you kind of know the agencies in your area. Now that so many are remote, the location probably doesn't matter as much. So, I mean, I do know there's websites like Clutch and things like that do agency listings. But I think it's also good to kind of check out the agency's social media to see about the content they're writing about, get a feel for the agency a little bit, do some research maybe on the owners.
Sure.
So there's definitely some online stuff you can do. I still think it is good if you happen to find an agency that's local to you, or at least has some people there, then you have the opportunity to have some one-on-one in person, which I do think is still valuable.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, you had mentioned that your agency is fully remote. Was it always that way, or did the pandemic accelerate that?
We opened up remote working in the end of 2018, I believe it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the reason why we did it was just kind of a trend within the industry anyway. But, as a small company, like you really look to see everything that you can do and offer your employees. And we were starting to do things like, when people have their annual review and you have here's all the things we're going to do for you, for this next year. Thank you for working so hard and being awesome. And it's like, one of the things we started giving people it was like, you get a work from home day, and you get a work from home day, and you get a work from home day. And we had all these people that had one day a week they could work from home, like as part of their arrangement. But we as a company weren't structured for it. We were very much in the office. So what happened would be like someone would just pick whatever day they wanted to be home because it worked for their schedule the best. And then we would all there'd be a meeting. We'd all huddle in the conference room and we're like, wait, where's so-and-so? And they're like, oh, she's home today. And we're like, and then you got to get the conference on, you got to get the, operationally, we were not set up for it, but it was something that was really in high demand within our team and just the industry in general. And so we decided to test it.
Okay.
And we kind of rolled it out as a beta for everyone to be like, we're wanting to give this a shot. We're going to just kind of see how it works for everybody. And we opened it up and then nobody came back in the office. I would say I did. And there was one of our developers as well. And we were the last men standing in the office. I like being with people. It's so the transition, I don't know, I might have taken it the hardest, even though I was like still fully supportive of it. But yeah, so we started it a while ago. So when COVID hit and everything shut down, we already had it all together.
You were already in. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome in going fully remote, like technology, communication between team members, and how did you solve those problems?
It's something that we're constantly still working on.
Okay.
You really, your team has to be super accountable for their work,
Okay.
Because everybody has the flexibility. And we're as an agency, we're so super flexible with how people work. And,
flex hours.
We sort of, we have we still operate off a central time zone as of right now, really, try to be available for your team from 8:30 to 5:30, but we have do not disturb in the afternoon. So there's no meetings that are booked. It's super flexible though. Like if you have to be out, just block your calendar, communicate with your team. We are, continually to move towards more asynchronous with just a lot of incorporating a lot of just video communication, even between the team. We have team members that work really, even though they're all US based, but we have team members that travel internationally, and that's totally fine. And it works. We just really need to be, they just need to be able to be available to. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there a certain eco structure that has worked best for your agency? For like, some people use G Suite, some people are Google Workspace now. Some people prefer Microsoft ecosystem.
We're not Teams. We use Google Drive for everything. We use Slack. We do have like a project management system where we keep just, track of all the official project information. Yeah. We use Loom Video. So we kind of have like a package of tools that we use depending on the communication need. Yeah.
All right on. So your agency specifically, I noticed focuses on demand generation. What is your definition of demand generation?
So I think demand generation is the full holistic getting out in front and creating demand for your business, being able to capture the demand, and then being able to grow it. I believe that demand generation over the course of the past few years, as it's really, become essentially a buzzword, if you will, and a focus for companies. I don't necessarily think it's been implemented correctly in most cases. And I believe that businesses aren't necessarily experiencing the generation side of it. And we believe it's because some of the fundamental pieces of what a true demand gen program should include are missing in a lot of the situations. So,
what are some of those biggest pieces that are missing that you see?
So one of the things is just flat out in the front, like actually creating the demand for your business. That piece is missing. It's the getting into, understanding who your ideal customer profile is and having the right conversations up front before they're even interested in the market. There's so much focus on talking to the people who are in market. There's intent data with, like the intent data or the in-market audiences or all these things that we do that are so smart. They use great technology, but if that's where our focus is, then we're kind of too late to the party.
I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's starting, but also this has been driven because there's so much focus within like the Google Analytics data and the quantitative data. It's driving everybody there. And so we have to realize that just because Google Analytics says that this person converted from paid search or they converted from organic, it doesn't mean that that's actually what, sold them in the first place. It could be, this webinar that you did that was in partnership with this thing. It could be this event that you attended. It could be your podcast that you put out. It could be these conversations that you had up here, and those top programs have been getting killed because you can't map them in Google Analytics. So it's starting to kind of like take a step back and think about marketing fundamentals with the customer journey, and make sure that where people are consuming the information and where they're learning and forming their opinions isn't always trackable in Google Analytics. And so it's making sure that we're looking at the whole journey and the whole program of what is this demand generation, and we have the right things in place. And then the other thing is that the KPIs that come from the executive level don't always support growth of the business.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting.
And that is also something that I believe is going to be shifting within marketing over the next few years, is just kind of this addition of working in qualitative data, understanding the things that you should be tracking in order to really know if you're getting, because there's so much focus on like lead generation, but often like, a lead could be a white paper download. Well, that doesn't mean somebody's ready to buy. It doesn't really mean
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Please don't call them. Please don't call them.
No. Yeah.
And so like, marketing is being judged often on their success by like how many people downloaded this thing, when really we need to be looking at a bigger picture. So
absolutely.
So that's kind of when we talk about create, capture, grow, that's really where we're coming from, is just kind of recognizing this shift that is happening in marketing in regards to strategy and attribution, and making sure that, we're helping clients have the full program in place that can really actually help them grow. Yeah.
I'm going to try and unpack everything you said, because there's so many awesome things you talked about. First of all, you would say that the one of the things I heard you say was that one of the mistakes people are making is, number one, not developing a customer persona. Correct me if I'm wrong, based on what I heard you say. Like they're not really targeting exactly who their ideal customer is, or a client in that regard. Would you say that's a mistake that you see? First of all, not targeting the right not knowing who your exact customer is, and then not targeting them early enough to get them to build a relationship with them to be able to eventually sell them something.
I would say it's really not understanding that customer. You might know from like it's usually a woman 45 to 60 that that lives in this type of home. Like you might know that about them, but you don't really understand them enough to know what is influencing their buying. and why they're making the decisions that they make. One of our focuses is also really getting into working with our clients to better understand their customers, and be that conversations with their customers and people that work closely with them, which helps drive the whole strategy. And then being able to communicate with them early enough before they're, before ZoomInfo has determined that they should show up in the intent data, or Google has deemed them in market. Before that happens, being able to have a conversation that might actually cause the trigger moment for them.
Yeah.
And if you're the one that causes that trigger moment, then you win. But, so it's about understanding. And, one of there's a kind of a strategy approach that I've been kind of studying, and it's not new. It's just a little bit newer to me, but it's about the jobs to be done theory. And I think it's kind of fascinating. And that really helps you, kind of going through that process helps you not just understand your customer, but actually the whole market that you're working in, and who you really could be serving, and who your competition is.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. There were my times at the dealership, all they cared about was acquiring new business and people who were in market car shoppers at that time. And sure, that's great. But I was trying to do what you're saying, got so much pushback from it, of developing who is it we're actually trying to sell to? Who is it we're actually trying to get in the door? And I even asked for a breakdown of who the target customer was on each specific model of vehicle.
Right.
And even the manufacturer, and I don't publicly say who the manufacturer is, they couldn't provide me with that information. And I think it was one of the pitfalls of totally outsourcing all of their marketing. They didn't have any. They partnered, totally outsourced with this prestigious firm from Madison Avenue or whatever, and and they didn't have that data, and it just blew my mind away. It's like, well, how are you writing your Google ads? How are you writing social media posts if we don't know who they are and what we need to say to them and what their motivations are? It just makes things so much easier. And I wanted to target existing customers to find out who they were, and using that data. And thank goodness they'd been in business for 10 years to be able to actually look at that data, although no one had ever done it before. And so the things you're saying are just very confirming to me, for lack of a better word.
You're
validating.
Yeah, validating.
Thank you.
I wasn't crazy. Yes. I actually was onto something there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's all they cared about. And as far as attribution goes, so you're talking about attribution, and then just because someone fills out a piece of a download doesn't mean they're a marketing qualified lead. So in regards to attribution, what do you think can be done for better attribution? For instance, I have Dan McGaw coming on the show actually today, and he owns UTM.io, which is a UTM management platform for teams to manage UTMs, and it's bloody brilliant platform. And so he's taught me a lot about that, and I had to implement that into my position. But what part do you think that but the point I'm trying to make is I've met and talked to many marketing professionals who don't use UTMs as much, or even as they should. It kind of blows my mind away. My friend's daughter graduated from college and is a marketing director or whatever at a organization, and doesn't even know what UTMs are. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But there's other attribution, is that a key to proper attribution, using those as a foundation? And what other thoughts are your thoughts on how attribution can be better quantitated to actual, what led to the business?
From a quantitative data standpoint, the UTM parameters are very important. You want to know, where people's interactions and engagements are coming from at the point of which they're like on your website and taking the various actions on there. So without the UTM parameters, you won't know that. The only thing is you just have to understand that you can't make full, complete decisions just by looking at that, because you're missing a piece of the puzzle. So I think that's where the challenge comes in. And so trying to find ways to implement also qualitative data to help round out what you're learning from Google Analytics or your other data platforms, so that you can try to have a better picture. And one of the things that we're seeing a lot on contact forms, for instance, on websites, is adding the required text field of "How did you hear about us?" Which seems kind of very old school. And you're like, why would I put that? Because clearly I have analytics on here. I can see that they came from paid search. And I know what keyword drove that. But having that text field on the form allows them to elaborate. Hey, I talked to this person, or hey, I've been following you on LinkedIn, or hey, I read this thing, whatever. But just work, and if you own a store or something, like finding ways to get the qualitative feedback to marry and help balance the quantitative can help you have a better story and understand what's going on with your marketing, so that you don't kill the things that are actually driving the people.
Absolutely. It just, they may came in a Google ad, but they're following you on LinkedIn. Like that may be there in their mind, what they did to,
And that ad is important, so that, because you don't want them to search you and then your competitor is bidding on your name and they all of a sudden go to your competitor and they get confused or whatever. Like, you want to be optimized in there when they're ready to contact you, right?
Yeah.
But that isn't probably the thing that sent them down the path.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What part do you think, like, from, you were talking about a marketing lead, like someone who downloaded a white paper, and then what part do you think that like marketing automation will play in the future, or is it playing right now, in regards to and CRMs? So like, Salesforce, or my preferred platform is Groundhog, which is a WordPress marketing automation CRM plugin. In regards to moving people through the funnel and continuing to add points to that lead to move them from a marketing qualified lead to a sales qualified lead.
I don't think they're that a sell. I mean, just to jump to the end of that story, I don't think they're a sales qualified lead until they legit raise their hand and say, I want to talk to somebody. I agree with you. Because so if you talk about the automation and the scoring, so just because I've been on your site 10 times now in the past week, it doesn't, like, I'm still probably going to be turned off a bit if you call me, because it's really creepy. I
agree with you.
Salesforce does it to me all the time. And they're like, I saw you were on our website and you were looking at this thing. That is creepy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just doing research. I don't want to talk to you. Okay. But your question, so I'm still working through forming my opinion on this and watching it and thinking about it. I do believe that there is still an opportunity for nurturing communications. I believe that there's still a great place for email as it stands with, sharing your latest content, keeping people informed, and people that opt in, they say, yes, I actually really like the content that you have going on your site and I don't want to miss it. Please email me when you send them out so I can stay current. Like, I believe that's a great place for email. I do believe we are moving away from all of the downloads eventually, and making the content more just available for people and really focusing on building trust, building communities in a way that's free for them. So I believe that is where things are moving. I believe we're moving away from the download mentality. We're not there yet. And it depends on what type of company you are. And if you work in an enterprise business right now, I mean, all of your marketing is centered around that. So that shift is not coming fast. But I believe the bite size, the make the content available, the being an expert, really just being present constantly, be that in social and on your site with education is really where marketing is, and allowing people to learn, to trust you, to feel like they know you, and to do all these things. And then when they're ready, they will contact you. You don't need all of those emails from a sales perspective, because you can go to Zoom Info and download those people's emails for the sales team. But so I don't know, there's a shift in this whole thing that's happening. And it'll be interesting to see where it all lands, but there's definitely some new strategies that are being tested now.
All right on. I guess my thought process was like, I've developed campaigns and funnels marketing automation where there's a free download, and then I take them out of that campaign and enroll them in a different funnel campaign. That's the free consultation campaign, and automatically adding tags and removing tags and applying things to nurture that lead to get them into a consult. And literally the funnel does end, with an email that says, hey, if it's now, it's not the right time. And then it enrolls them in the monthly newsletter campaign where they'll be nurtured. But yeah, you're right. Like I wouldn't send them just because they're on the darn site. Doesn't mean you call them. That's stupid. In my opinion, it's premature. You can consistently use those events to add points, and key interests of knowing what they're looking at. But you're right. Until they make it, they should be in control of when they want to talk to you, but be also given the avenue of being able to, or the medium, if you will, of being able to book that opportunity for themselves to book a consultation. And the mistake I personally see people making is using systems that aren't integrated. Like, hey, Calendly made the founder a billionaire, but if it doesn't integrate with your CRM and talk to it, then it's a broken funnel, in my opinion. And I could be wrong. Maybe there's ways to connect it with Zapier and do all that. I have no idea, because I always use something that's an all-in-one solution. So yeah, it's interesting to see what's going to happen in that regard. There's so much that was unpacked. I forgot the other questions I was going to ask. Sorry about that. There was so much that you said. I'll have to go.
No, it's good. I mean, it's loaded. I do think. I mean, it's always an exciting time to be in digital because it's always changing, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. Hey, what's one big takeaway you want our listeners to get from this episode?
Man, that's a great question. I think it's just that. It's like, from a digital marketing perspective, it's like always be looking forward. There's so many resources out there to be learning. There's so many great podcasts, LinkedIn, different certifications. And it's definitely not an industry where you just sit and rest in. It's like you're constantly challenging yourself to move forward. That's what we've done, with our company. I feel like we're always assessing ourselves, like every 6 months, just to help our clients move forward and stay ahead, as well. So that's probably the biggest takeaway from us. We're seeing a lot of shift in the demand generation space itself, which is why we've kind of rolled out our Create, Capture, Grow program, and working with clients. And
that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. How can our listeners connect with you, and the listeners and viewers connect with you online if they choose to do so?
Awesome. Well, you can connect with me personally on LinkedIn. My name is Claire Brunner. You can find me there, or our website is Enilon. It's ENILON.com.
Yeah, right on. And for those of you, as she said, it's an acronym. Is that correct? An acronym for online?
An anagram.
Anagram. Thank you. Anagram for online. Online spelled backwards.
Something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, yes, it's been a pleasure having you here. Thank you so much. We'll make sure to put that information in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, right on.